Hi YouTube, this is Kelly from Team Imperious with TCG Weekly. Today I'm bringing you guys my 4th place ARG Nationals deck profile and a little tournament report. So this is my dimensional Robo deck that I brought with me to Philly this past weekend and got 4th place with. And so I'm hoping the video will obviously have a deck list, but clear up some of my choices that a lot of people thought were a little bit weird and talk about my rounds and stuff. This is a playmat that you got for getting top 16, obviously, so. Alright, so for my starter, I played Cosmic Hero Grand Seed. This was one of the things that people were a little bit confused about. So the reason I played him instead of a Dimensional Robo starter is because he's simply a better option. Even though he is GB1, his ability to let you draw an additional card is phenomenal in the deck. You really need to be able to shuffle through your deck and thin it out so that when you go for your big turns, there's more grade 3s left in the deck. So his ability to give you an extra draw was pretty much invaluable this weekend. It also, because his ability is like, you can keep doing it every turn, you can keep getting effects off of it. It's not like a one-time use starter that you lose like Dimagnum or Goyusha. I wouldn't bring Goyusha to an event. I think his effect is too much negging to get one card you need when there's other stuff in the deck that does it for you. And Dimagnum, even though he does fix some of the soul issues that this deck can have, he's a one-time use, meaning you lose a booster, which is kind of difficult for this deck. You need to be able to keep your field, and you want to be plussing as much as possible. So even if you can plus from just having a starter on board, that's good. So that's why I play him. Then, for my grade 3s, I run... Oh, you can't even see that. Let me zoom out a little bit. Nope. So, 4 Break Ride. Hi, cat. 4 Legion. 3 Legion Mate. And 1 Diard. So, obviously, 4 Legion and 4 Break Ride are a little bit self-explanatory. They are the keys to the deck to make it work. The Legion Break Ride turn is phenomenal and terrifying, and generally the turn you win the game on. And you just want to make sure you hit it. Before the event, I actually was only running 3 of him, and at the last second I switched my grade 3 lineup a bit and put in the 4th one, and I am so glad I did that because he came for me whenever I needed him. One of the matches on stream, you can actually see me just top deck him and go for the win against the OTT player that I played, who I don't remember his name, but he was an awesome guy. But this card is phenomenal, and these two together are what make the deck work. So, as for the Legion Mate, I only run 3 because he's pretty terrible in Vanguard by himself. His effects used to be cool in cross-ride format, but now he's kind of... You don't want to ride him. He's the last thing you want to ride. And like running 4, he was too cloggy. And then I do the 1 Diard because if the game is going bad enough where Diard is the one that you ride, he can help fix you so you get to your break ride so you're ready for the next turn. And because the cost for his ability is to eat a rear guard and put it into your soul, he fixes the soul problem. So the 1 Diard was kind of a one of tech that ended up helping me a lot. I never had to use his effect, but he did break a lot of shields. Alright, for my grade 2 lineup, I ran 4 Die Dragon, 4 Die Jet, and 1 Kaizard. Die Dragon is a little bit self-explanatory. He is the 12k attacker. For a lot of the decks in the meta right now, especially the generation decks, like Messiahs or Gears and stuff like that, they really can't live if you sit on the grade 2 game. And because the way this deck is built, he will always be a 12k attacker. Your grade 2 game is pretty good. So playing 4 of him is a necessity. He's your attacker. He's got Dimensional Robo in the name, and he helps make the grade 2 game work. And I actually won several games just by popping 2 of them on the rear guard and swinging instead of going to grade 3. Because decks like Link Joker and other decks can't handle that. Also, I played 1 grade 1 Rush deck, and he really helped with that because he was able to hit really solid numbers. Die Jet she's a new card that came out of the extra booster, and she is easily the MVP of like all your rear guards. She's phenomenal. She tossing the grade 3 back in the deck after you stride, after it gets blown up, after something else happens. She's just too good not to run. So obviously I max her out at 4. She's amazing. Also, the fact that she gives your Vanguard a little bit extra power on top of giving them an on-hit Counterblast 1 draw card just adds to being able to flush through your deck more and putting more pressure on the Vanguard, which is what you need. And then the last one, a lot of people ask me about this one, so it's going to be kind of a weird explanation, is Kaizard. The reason I run one of him is because for a while I was only running 8 grade 2s and it did not work. But putting it up to 9 seems to be the perfect number. I very rarely get grade stuck at 2. So he's just in there to fill out the last spot. Technically, for anyone out there who wants to run my build, Kaizard isn't an absolute necessity, so you could really fill this slot with any other Dimensional Robo grade 2 that's not Die Lady. Don't run Die Lady. But the reason I run him over Die Barrett, like a lot of people were asking, is because he is kind of a mini break ride, which if you go to grade 3 first can sometimes actually help you out a lot. Also, Die Barrett, while he is a good option, being able to snipe off rear guards, he does put himself into the soul, and he uses a counterblast. And like I said, the deck really doesn't want to lose any rear guards. So, on top of the fact that I couldn't actually find my Die Barretts, I decided to run him instead. And technically, you could run the 10k vanilla over him and it would be just fine. It's just personal preference, but I like him. Sometimes that extra 5 when you ride to 3 can help you out. For my grade 1s, I ran 4 Die Lion, 2 Dimensional Robo Operator Girl Yuka, 2 Commander Laurel, and 4 Cosmic Hero Grand Guard, the Unflip Perfect Guards. The Unflip Perfect Guards, even though they don't have Dimensional Robo in the name, being able to unflip the damage is amazing in this deck because you need to be able to break ride, you need to be able to use Die Earth's effect, and you need to be able to use the Legion's effect, all which rely on counterblasts. So being able to flip essentially 3 extra damage per game really changes the way it'll go. I only run 2 Commander Laurel because I find him insanely cloggy at anything higher than that. I can't tell you how many times I had to ride him this weekend, even though I only had 2 in the deck. I think he's unnecessary to run any more of. I do not agree with the people who say run 4 of him. It's never worked. He is not... Yes, he can push for game if he's on board, but really all he does is scare your opponent. All he does is put a giant target on his back to get blown up, and honestly, the way this deck is built, he's really a win more card. They should not be living after your first swing. So, only run 2. He has his merits, but I don't think running him as 4 is worth it, but that's how I see it. 2 Operator Girl Yuka, because she is a Generation Break 1, you don't get to use her effect all that often early game, so I didn't feel like she was necessary to run more than 2. She does have the Dimensional Robo name, so a lot of times she was just an extra reason I could ride. And she just at least has an effect that can be used, unlike, was it Die Mariner? Yeah. And then I don't run Die Tiger, the attacker, simply because your attackers are going to be pulled from the deck with Die Earth's effect, so I don't like the 10k attacker solely because you don't want to drop your booster and swing with it because you're leaving it open. And this deck has so little boosters anyway, you don't want to give them the opportunity to snipe it off with just an attack. And you don't want to have to waste guards on your rear guards. And then for Die Lion, because he is the limit break enabler and being able to break ride early is an absolute necessity. Also making sure that you don't accidentally heal out of Dayusha's effect also makes him an absolute must-run 4 of in the deck. For the triggers, I ran 4 draw, that's a heal trigger, 4 heals, 8 crits, and 4 draws. And for those who saw the deck list on ARG's site, my deck is called Pengwinning because I run 1 Army Penguin, and whenever I needed that defensive draw trigger, he always came to me, so I still run 1 Army Penguin just because it's a little joke. He loves me. Lastly, for my strides, it's 4 Die Earth. Rather self-explanatory. Thins your deck, calls out rear guards, it can get a crit if you have flipped them twice. Excuse me. Usually that wasn't really the point. Just being able to refill your rear guards is an absolute necessity in the deck. They don't have really any other way to do that, so he is crucial to make the whole thing work. 2 X-Tigers. I ran 2. I only think I used him like once or twice this weekend, but the X-Tiger really is just there for when you know they don't have perfect guards in their hand and you've already exhausted your resources doing the Legion Break Ride turn, because if they don't have a perfect guard in their hand and it's late game, usually your zone looks something like this. You would flip another one. He's huge, on top of being able to give him boosts from Dijet, and usually by that point in the game you have Laurel on the board. So he's just an extra safeguard in case I do hit late game. Then I ran 1 X-Rogue solely because his effect is free. All the other ones have costs, counterblasts, flipping, but he is a free card, so in case I needed to hit his draw or whatever, he was an extra option. And then, last but not least, was Dark Superhuman Omega. A lot of people thought this was really weird. They expected a Blizza, I think, or something else, but Dark Superhuman steals games from people. They don't expect him to get flipped. He's definitely a dark horse. He technically can fix your soul issue because you soul blast one, so say you rode like the perfect guard, you could soul blast the perfect guard and eat a dimensional Robo so you're ready for your next turn. But his ability to neg your opponent's front row is amazing, because if you know they do have the perfect guards and you still need to get them all out, then you can neg them by like 11 by eating an extra Dayusha or something and force all of those perfect guards out of their hands. So he's really good, definitely a one of. The only problem is his Counterblast 2 made it so I didn't really get to use him all that much because I needed to save the counterblasts. So that's the deck profile. This weekend it was 7 rounds of Swiss, I think. Yeah, 7 rounds of Swiss, and then top cut to top 16. So I played first round. I lost my first round. I ended up going X2 the whole weekend, so I lost my first round to a Shadow player. I don't know. I can't really remember exactly why I lost the match, but I think it was a combination of like tournament jitters. It was the first round, and my deck didn't trigger all that much, so that wasn't a fun way to start because it pushed me all the way to the back tables. But then game 2 I played against a Gold Paladin grade 1 rush deck, which I can see why you would want to try it, but this deck is not something that you want to try and sit on a different grade to win the game. You can't sit on 1 or 2 to win against this deck because Break Ride can still go off. On top of having the ability to do it early, I can just guard all of his grade little weenie attacks and just Break Ride over Break Ride, and that's how I won both the games. So won that one, ended up going to round 3. I played against a Messiah Link Joker player. He was pretty cool, but it was all like the new GB stuff. So what I did was I just sat on grade 2 for a while until I had the perfect setup in my hand, and then I would go for it. And I think game 2 or game 3, I don't remember which one we got to, but the last game he had 5 cards in hand, and all of them were grade 3s, so there was no way he could block, and I strode into Die Earth with Laurel on the board, so that was that one. And then the rest of the day, I played nothing but Shadow players. That was awful. It was, the next 5 rounds were all just, or 4 rounds, were all just Shadow players, all playing like Urgeyser and Phantom Blaster, Diablo, whatever its stupid name is. I ended up winning all of my rounds until the last round, which I lost to Henry Doe, who ended up coming in second. So that was pretty cool. I got 13th place overall after Swiss, so I got in the top cut. And then day 2, I played against a Sanctuary Guard deck first, which threw me entirely off, but we went to game 3 and I was able to get it from him. Then my second game I played against the OTT player on stream, and for any of you that were watching, I had the Break Ride and I had him in my hand, and that was all I had in my hand when I went for my last turn, and I top decked the Legion, so all I had to do was Break Ride with Legion, call this to the rear guard and swing a bunch of times, and he couldn't block it. After that, I went and played Matthew Day, who was another Sanctuary Guard player, he ended up winning. He's the champion, and I lost to him. He 2-0'd me because I was not expecting him to run stand triggers, and that completely threw me off. I lost the first game to stand triggers because he flipped 2 and just restood a whole column that was enormous because Sanctuary Guard. And then game 2, I had the guard in my hand, but he flipped another stand trigger for the win, so wasn't really much I could do there. I don't like stands, but I guess sometimes if you trigger them at the right time, they work really well. So after that, I knew I was knocked out of finals, but I went to play Will Fuller for 3rd and 4th place, and that was kind of a grudge match, because Will was one of the shadow players I played in Swiss, and in Swiss, I sacked the crap out of him for the win, and he was following me, telling me that we needed to get our rematch, and we wanted our rematch to be at top tables, but it was at 3rd and 4th. And so my opening hands, both games, were just terrible. It was awful. There was nothing I could do, so he handily got those games for me. But that was my review of ARG Nationals in Philly. It was a lot of fun. I loved meeting everybody, finally getting to meet a lot of the people from the Facebook groups. We hung out, played a lot of good games, and just had a lot of fun. So thank you for everybody who I met over the weekend, and thank you for watching the video, and I hope it helped anyone who wants to try playing this deck at their own events. So have a good day, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe.